How do you feel about what's happening in your country while you're in this country? What's responsible for it?
Well, I only hear the news, in fact, from Ireland about a day and a half late, mostly because I don't depend on hearing it through the press channels or the television channels. But if you want to know what is responsible for it, you can't look at just what happens, today, yesterday, the day before. What sparks it off may be the fact that the army, if you take the case of the accidental running down of a child, that was bound to happen sooner or later. The British Army has, from it arrived in Northern Ireland, refused to obey the simple traffic laws of stopping when the lights are red, of overtaking at the outside, of observing the speed limits. And apart from their military activities, that very fact has continually angered the mothers on the housing estates that they patrol, that they have no respect for the lives of children. But that isn't, what fundamentally starts it off. If you have the Northern Ireland statistics of 10% unemployment figures among the male population, and that continually rising, that's 1% more than we had last year. Some areas with 28% male unemployment, and some with as high as 30% male unemployment. People with low incomes and high rents to pay on council houses, and the frustration of having no social or economic policy put forward by the government to solve that problem. That one is not only condemned and punished by having to live in slums because one is working class, but one is also punished because you complain about it, and because in your complaining you become frustrated. I'm not condoning riots, I'm not condoning the violence that occurs, but I know why it happens, I understand why it happens. For 50 years people have had to live in poverty, and in Northern Ireland or anywhere else people have just got sick of it, and violence will continue until the people who produce wealth in this world are entitled to some benefit from it, entitled to some power from it.
What about the involvement of the Irish Republican Army in this escalation of violence?
The involvement of the Irish Republican Army is usually a myth on the part of the government. The Irish Republican Army is in fact the armed wing of Sinn Féin. Its function has always been as human beings. They're not robots who run around with extensions of guns for arms.
Are you saying they're not involved in it?
I'm saying that they are not involved in escalating violence. If members of the Irish Republican Army, the official Irish Republican Army, are involved at the moment in using arms, they would be using them only for the defence of the rest of the civilian population who cannot use arms to defend themselves against the superior military might of the British Army, the Royal Ulster Constabulary or anybody else.
Ms. Devlin, do you want